Welcome back. You are still watching Morning Live. During Winnie Mandela's funeral, in his speech, President Cyril Ramaphosa said, "We must also recognize our own wounds as a nation. We must acknowledge that we are a society that is hurting, damaged by our past, numbed by our present, and hesitant about our future. This may explain why we are easily prone to anger and violence." Well, to discuss this further, we're joined here in studio by Nomfundo, who is the Executive Director at the Center of the Study of Violence and Reconciliation, as well as Mamlinda Koboto, the founder of Vuka Africa. And she'll be joining us from our Sea Point studios in Cape Town. Very good morning to both of you ladies, and thank you so much for joining us.
Morning, and thanks for having us.
Fantastic. I'll start with you, Nomfundo. Listening to the statement that was made by the president, I suppose for someone who's in the line of work that you do, it's not a surprise. Also considering the events that have continued to unfold and the reactions of our people to certain situations.
Look, first of all, it's highly encouraging to hear a president calling this, because this is something that we've been talking about since the 2008 eruption of xenophobic violence, where we're saying that this is an indication and a symptom of the unresolved trauma of a society. And also just before Umama Uwini herself passed away after the violence of the local government elections, she called on us as a society to enter into a deep state of introspection, to ask ourselves, why are we where we are? And what we've always been saying is that our freedom was never free. We all were left touched by what has happened, and I think we haven't fully appreciated and dealt with the psychological wounds that many people, many of us had to suffer as a society. And this woundedness has affected us at an individual level, at a family level, and even at an institutional level. Whilst we've done a lot of work in building strong institutions, we haven't transformed the cultures of our institutions. And I think finally, which has been an area of interest of mine since 2008, after this eruption of xenophobic violence, is collective trauma, that at a collective level and the psyche of our society has been touched by what has happened in the past. And we are a wounded society, a society where we learned that your superiority is based on you being better than the other. So people were robbed of their humanity, or people made to feel that just because of the color of your skin, you are less than, you are worthless, so to say. And it was brutal. It was a brutal system that affected all of us. So I think it's encouraging that the president is acknowledging that in building a society, one of the things that we neglected was the psychological transformation, which is now, as we see in our society in terms of the violence and other challenges that we have, it has really now becoming a cancer that is eating up this very same democracy that we fought so hard for.
Mamlinda, let me come to you. I mean, the subject of woundedness and healing is also something that is quite close to your heart. What is your view on this?
Pearl, you know, I want to go back a little bit to after 94, when I began to see that we are still protesting the way we've been pre-liberation, and we are still singing the same songs, we are still using the same strategies of burning and destruction. I knew that there was something wrong, and I knew that there's something that we needed to do. And all the time I was thinking maybe the government was supposed to do something after 94 to change the mindsets of people, because I realized that though we're voted, though we are liberated, we have a democracy, but our mindset has not changed. So as the work of Vuka Africa, we are going around bringing a message of hope, hope of restoration and healing, calling Africa to arise, to lead this season and this process of restoration of Africa, and to rebuild our lives and our nations. So in that work, I then got to understand in 2016, what is it that we're supposed to do? Because as I was praying, the Lord revealed to me that we are wounded, we are broken, we are disappointed, we are hurting, and we are very angry. What we are seeing is the anger, and it's all because of our past. And so what is the solution? The solution was this brokenness and woundedness is emotional. It's in our minds, our souls, our spirits. So we need healing. And so we've put together a healing campaign, Healing of the Nations campaign. And this healing, we're bringing healing through the word treatment, giving people to take the word as a treatment like pills, and also bringing healing through worship, through music.
Indeed. I'll come back to you here in studio. Mam Linda speaks about the need for healing. It is quite important. What steps do you think we missed, firstly? And it seems like we need to have a discussion about this as a nation. Yeah. How do we heal? How do we move on? Yeah. But how do we engage each other? How do we make it possible for that dialogue to take place?
Yeah, I think just Linda really has articulated the level of brokenness that exists in our society. So there's a number of levels that we need to start. I wouldn't even say we need to discuss. We need to enter in a dialogue, right, as South Africans around healing. The first one is an appreciation of the need for this healing and the level of our woundedness, because healing starts when you become awake to yourself and you accept that, yes, we are broken as a nation. And I think we've begun to do that with the president doing this, because in the past there was a complete denial of just how broken we are. And secondly is then to begin to do that work of healing or transformation. And this is at a number of levels. At a collective level, healing happens through media like this, right, where the public discourse enables people to talk about our pain. But for that to happen, you see, for people to feel safe enough to talk about their pain, there has to be a caring and a supportive environment where people feel that their pain can be contained. You know, I talked to one of the people who was very close in the struggle, and they were involved during the funeral of Mama Winnie, and I was talking about this healing. And what she said for me was very profound. She said, Nomfundo, too many of us are scared to go there, because we're scared that if we go there, we are not going to come back because the pain is too deep. So we have to create that environment. And the key people who can do that for me, I usually say it seems so big, but I usually, the place to intervene is at a leadership level. So in any society that has this kind of collective trauma that you can have two types of leaders. You can have leaders that are called peace carriers, who themselves have dealt with their own trauma, they have dealt with their pain, and they have the ability to hold the pain of others and therefore carry us through this process. Because if we enter in the process of healing without a leadership that can contain it, we are actually likely to deepen this. And we really need to watch, even as we approach 2019, because in a society that has been traumatized like this, you can have leaders who are trauma carriers, who themselves, using their own pain, mobilize our pain towards dividing us even more. So it's at leadership level. I have to
just interject quickly there and just go to Mam Linda once again as we wrap up this discussion. Stephen Grootes wrote that crucial to this is the kind of leadership that our society is choosing and where those choices might take us. Mam Linda, has our leadership helped us? Have they done enough? And just as we wrap up this conversation, your parting words in terms of this healing that is necessary for South Africa to move forward.
You know, Pearl, I think this is the beginning. After 24 years, we hear our president openly saying that we are a wounded society, we need healing. And so now we are there, like organizations like this One of Violence, Vuka Africa Foundation, who is driving a campaign for healing. So the important thing is now, if the leaders can work together with us and we heal our nation, our nation is in desperate need of healing. So we need to work with the leaders. Yes, they've done whatever they can do, but now there are other people who are coming out and were saying, let's work together and bring healing to our nation.
Thank you very much to Nomfundo Mogapi, who is the Executive Director for the Center of the Study of Violence and Reconciliation, and of course Mam Linda Koboto, who is of course the founder of the Vuka Africa Foundation.